Hey guys, we're going to put this video on our how to do stuff in Japan playlist. Probably not relevant for people coming just for a holiday, except perhaps as a curiosity, but for people who are going to be living here, particularly if living here long term, this might be relevant. So this is the traditional way that local neighborhood associations communicate with the members. So obviously we have the national government in Japan, we have state governments or kens, prefecture governments, then we have city governments or town governments, and then it breaks right down to small neighborhood associations that get as small as maybe 8 or 9 houses. So this is the traditional way that the members of those groups, small and large, communicate with each other. So you quite often see these old notice boards on old buildings, sometimes modern versions of this as well, with modern versions of that outside buildings, and all sorts of notices about upcoming festivals or any sort of administrative type stuff. So if they're having some problems with the local garbage sorting, sorting of the recycling, as we've showed you in other videos before, or any sort of day-to-day sort of stuff that the neighbourhood association is involved with, this is how they communicate with the local people. So it's sort of interesting because it's the traditional way, it's the way it's always been done, and it's the way they're still doing it, which is sort of cool. It just shows that community involvement with everybody. This is a good one because it's really old. The old ones are sort of nice. It sort of makes you wonder how old they are, how long there's been a notice board on that particular old building there, and what's been posted there over the years. You could just imagine, couldn't you? That's a classic, that one. That's a good one. For those of us who are excited by old notice boards. And then you get the modern version. So here's a modern version, nice new one, with not much on it. Here's another good one. This is just near a very old rail line. So again, not a lot to say on this particular notice board, but just classic. I mean, a beautiful old building there that it's on, with the old notice board pinned up on it. And you'll find these every few streets, because quite often the group that's involved in that particular notice board might only be 8 or 9 houses. So if you walk down a road like this one, that's a really old road, but quite a busy one now, you'll find one of these boards every so often, quite regularly, because there's one for each little group of houses, sort of thing. Interesting note too, isn't it? I think there's a lot of countries where if you put a notice board up like that on a wall, it would end up being an easel for graffiti, or a canvas. Some graffiti artists would consider it to be a canvas, wouldn't they? And they'd have to put their art on it. But as you can see, it doesn't happen here. Here's another classic. Look at this one. In a little alley of a little neighbourhood. So just to make sure you get the information, it goes on that poster, but also quite often the old style is they have these clipboards that they bring around. So this is obviously a modern version of it, but they bring these clipboards around it varies, but every couple of weeks, and you have an order. So our little area here, we've got 8 or 9 houses, and somebody brings this to us, and we open the clipboard, and inside the clipboard is all sorts of information, sort of what's happening, if there's some things with the garbage collection, or if there's a festival coming up and they need donations, or whatever it is that is going on in the community. Can't show you because it's got all the members' names on it, so we're not going to show you that part. But this comes around every couple of weeks, and then we read it, and then we sign it, and then we take it to the next person on the list, and then they read it and they sign it and they take it to the next person on the list. So the information gets passed around like that, and also on those notice boards. So we also have people come around for local festivals and things like that. Somebody will come around, say we've got the festival coming up in 2 weeks' time, we need donations, are you interested in donating? And if you're living in Japan and they come around and do that, it's not compulsory, of course, but small communities, it's good to be involved if you can. That notice board's actually outside a temple, and again, if there's something coming up at the temple, soon if there's some sort of festival coming or some sort of event. This one's outside a school. So undoubtedly these sorts of things happen in other parts of the world. Just sort of interesting that in the age of the internet and everything else, that these posting public notices on an old wall is a sort of a interesting way to communicate. One outside the local police station. Quite often we'll have wanted posters on there for some guy that's wanted in Tokyo or something. But we're out in the countryside. But anyway, but again, community stuff as well. They'll post up, you know, information on the festival that's coming or something like that. Anything that's of interest to the community. And then with apartment buildings too, this apartment building here has only got 5 apartments, 1, 2, 4, 6 apartments, but it has one as well, and that's normal too. Even if a small apartment building with 4 apartments or 6 apartments, we'll still have a notice board like this. And even though everything that's on there would have been slipped under each of the 6 doors in this case, they'll still post it up on the board. So here's another one that's a small apartment building with the notice board. So the public notice board, yes, a very important part of communication in Japan, of course, in amongst the small communities. And we'll just have a look at this one again because it's the nicest one. We got notice board mania happening here because we love it. But it is, once you start noticing these, any of you guys that are already in Japan that have already noticed these, or if you're coming to Japan, you start noticing these, it becomes can become a bit of a thing. Spotting the beautiful old notice boards. Some of them are really old too, really old timber and quite beautiful. Anyway, just a funny, silly thing. I hope somebody else got some value out of that. More videos coming soon.